So now we know which type of boot we want, we can focus in on the model that's going to work best for us. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to my channel. You join me here in Seoul Boot Lab in Chamonix, and I'm doing a whole series here on how to optimize your ski boots. This is part 2 of a 4-part series, so if you haven't seen the first part, I'd strongly recommend that you go and check that out. I'll leave a link for it here and down in the description. And whilst you're down there, make sure that you've hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications. That way you're not going to miss any of the subsequent videos in this series or other things that I do on this channel. So once we've figured out which category of ski boot works best for us, it's time to get focused in on which shell is going to work best for our foot. In this video, we're going to focus on the free touring category, which is kind of like my workhorse boot. It's the boot that I'm in for most days of the season. For downhill boots or for other categories, you might have other considerations to think about, but I feel like the free touring range is probably the boot that most people who are watching this channel are going to choose. So in most ski shops, there'll be a range of boots to choose from any given category. In this case, we've got 6 boots from the free touring category, so we're going to look at the factors to consider when picking out the shell that's going to work for you. So here's the 5 main factors to consider when you're buying a free touring boot. We've got fit, range of motion, weight, aesthetics, and price. Now these can change around a little bit, but let's start down here with price. Now the price might be a very important consideration for you, and I get that things are getting more expensive and it's difficult to pay for everything that you need to be able to go skiing. But what I would say about ski boots is it's definitely an area that it's worth putting more of your money into. Remember that ski boots are your interaction with the ski and therefore the snow, and getting a well-optimized boot that fits your feet very well is going to give you all-day comfort and a good feeling of skiing. Aesthetics really comes down to the color of the boot or the look of the boot, and for me that's not really of much importance. Yes, there are some slight differences in buckles and some design differences with some of these boots, but generally they all work really well. They're very ergonomic and they definitely do the job that you need. Getting used to the color doesn't take very long, and hopefully those ski boots are going to be buried in knee-deep powder for most of the time anyway. Weight could be an important factor for you, but if you're considering the weight to be an important factor, then it might be worth considering a lighter class of boot. A lot of the boots that we're going to talk about behind me here are actually quite similar in weight. Maybe there's a few differences of a few hundred grams at most. Generally, the lighter the boot is, the less performance you're going to get from it, whether that's less torsional stability, so side-to-side stability, or whether it just feels a little bit less damp over those kind of chattery bumps. So a little bit of extra weight can actually be a good thing sometimes if you do a lot of skiing in resort or on kind of tricky snow conditions like we get in the Alps, for example. Remember that the liner that goes into the boot can affect the weight quite a lot, so that's an important consideration as well, and it's something that we're going to talk about in a later video. For me, the range of motion is also not that important because I find that I can never really use the full range of motion of a boot anyway. Generally, it's nice to have something that's fluid and isn't, holding you back when you make a stride, but you're never going to make huge strides when you're ski touring anyway. And also, most of the boots in this category are pretty similar in terms of their range of motion. So by far, the most important factor to consider when you're buying ski boots is the fit. If you buy a pair of ski boots from the internet, let's say, there's a pretty high chance that you're going to make some kind of mistake in fitting that boot. You're either going to get the wrong size, it could be too big, or you simply might just get the shell shape that's wrong for your foot. This is where a boot fitter is indispensable. They spend all day, every day, looking at people's feet, looking inside ski boots and making decisions about what's going to fit the best. So for me, for example, I now know that a Technica boot fits my foot the best, and I wouldn't have known that unless I'd actually gone and seen these guys and they'd looked at my feet and looked at the whole shape of my foot and made that decision. So here I've got 2 extreme examples of feet, a very flat foot and a very high arch foot like this. And you could tell that these 2 feet, they're not going to fit into the same ski boot the same way. So a boot fitter would look at factors such as your heel width, your instep height, the width of your forefoot, and the profile of your toes. And they would also just look at the general volume of your foot as well. So I'd strongly recommend going to a boot fitter, getting them to look at your feet, measure everything, and then get their recommendation for which brand and model works for you out of a certain category. I wouldn't get too tied up with the brand or the features or what other people are skiing. Just focus on getting the boot that works best for your foot based on the fit. So once you know the shell model that you're going to use, it's time to figure out the shell length. And we're going to leave that for a separate video where we're also going to talk about footbeds and the importance that they have in figuring out the shell length. I think these are one of the most valuable pieces of kit that you can get for skiing, so that's the third video in this series, which is coming out next week. So we're going to wrap that up here, so thanks very much for watching. Also, let me know in the comments if there's any other factors that you might consider when you're buying a ski boot from the free touring range or from any other category. If you enjoyed that video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you've got any specific questions about anything to do with ski boots, then you can leave a comment down below, and either myself or the guys from Seoul Boot Lab will respond to those. So cheers guys, I'll see you next time.